The contents of Want My Baby Back, this media, and anything created or shared by Want My Baby Back LLC are opinions not to defame or make any accusations. Some names are pseudonyms. Please pardon the typos, slurred or misspoken words, and other errors. This content was created in grief. Copyright Want My Baby Back LLC. All rights reserved.
Day 64. Walking into Target, a cart wrangler stopped and, with a theatrical look up and down, said, "Hey, I see you. Looking good, mommy." It took me about 2 seconds to respond by bursting into convulsive, head-jerking tears. In the many years I've responded to cat calls from strangers, I never considered the possibility of repelling them with wailing sobs. A brief aside, I'm not particularly attractive. I just tend to find myself in environments where catcalling occurs. Back to Want My Baby Back. The cart wrangler came running over to comfort me. In an act of incongruity, he asked for permission before patting me on the back, and then he said it, meaning the cat call, was supposed to be a compliment. I should have replied with both an explanation for my tears, I'm a grieving mom, and suggestions for more appropriate ways and times to compliment women. For example, saying they look lovely on a date. Instead, I said, okay, and then ran away. It was that charming anecdote and the death of my daughter that I shared at a dinner event 3 hours later. I also debated the merits of an open marriage, early retirement, nuclear disarmament, refugee resettlement, sex workers' rights, and a possibly racist thing someone said the day before. Clearly, my fellow diners had a wide variety of interests. With the exception of myself, they all knew each other from Stanford. Not only did I not go to Stanford, I had to Google how to spell it. Fortunately, they had excellent manners and pretended to find my lack of decorum significantly more endearing than was required. I worry that my constantly mentioning the passing of my daughter is making it hard for other people to be around me. I don't want to be a burden to anyone with my grief, but it seems that's all I do. That's all I am. It appears to be all I can think about or talk about. I used up 90% of my energy to stop myself from crying and leave the other 10% to cover everything else. Day 65. For the past several years, I've learned to ask my friend Paul Gilmartin, comedian and host of the Mental Illness Happy Hour and co-host of Dinner and the Movie, to record my outgoing voicemail greeting message, but my cowardice at making him uncomfortable has prevented me from doing so. He is a performer, so he has an incredible voice. I could listen to him read a grocery list. It is a crime that he isn't reading the news on NPR. As a rule, I try not to ask for too many favors. I have no skills, so I can't ever return a favor. However, since Constance passed, I've been the reluctant recipient of hundreds of cards, emails, texts, calls, and popovers from friends saying, I wish there was something I could do to help. Of course, they mean help with the unspeakable grief that is crushing my soul and making me crave the release of death. However, I have taken the offer of help literally in Paul's case. I finally asked him to record my outgoing voicemail message. Paul did the thing that amazing friends do. I asked for something, and instead of dodging, evading, or asking a dozen clarifying questions, he just did it. He immediately sent me 4 outgoing voicemail messages. My name is mispronounced by everyone, including myself. So when he said my name perfectly, I literally jumped with excitement and grabbed my own head, trying to restrain my mind from being blown. The first message was so perfect I couldn't imagine what the other 3 were like. The extra 3 recordings were hysterically funny outgoing messages for my personal entertainment. They had me giggling while playing them repeatedly again and again all day. I couldn't stop tickling myself by playing them. It was so nice to have the diversion. I am so lucky to have such talented, generous, and witty friends. I don't know what I do to deserve them, but I'm very grateful for them. I keep learning that the worse the times are, the more critical it is to have the right people around you. Paul has kindly allowed me to include a censored version, even though when he recorded these, they were for my personal amusement. Thanks, Paul.
You have reached the office of Rachelle Jervis. We look forward to reviewing your message at our earliest convenience. Have a great day. You've reached the office of Rachelle Jervis, but she can't come to the phone right now because it's you with another stupid question that you could probably answer yourself. Do you have any idea how stressed out she is, how busy her day is, the drama she has going on in her life, and there you are, again, on the phone with your dumb... You've probably single-handedly taken 5 years off her life, and you have no idea. You have no idea. Give her a break. Hang up and never call back. Rachelle Jervis would like you to yourself. Rachelle can't come to the phone right now. Her going to town on her...
Day 66. Continued work on the house is crushing. I imagine I'm feeling similar to those who see the end of the marathon and, despite the miles they've already covered, are certain they can't walk another step. I try to motivate myself by reviewing what is completed, emptying the house, basement, and garage, taking most things to Goodwill and putting the rest in storage, removing all the art and photography, patching all the drywall holes. First floor bathroom remodel, Constance's bathroom remodel, painting Constance's old bedroom, painting what was to be Constance's new bedroom, painting the guest bedroom, painting the first floor hallway, replacing all the old vents in the house, caulking all the baseboards, replacing the old outlet covers with pretty new ones, etc., etc., etc. Still, the things I must do and should do loom over me. Yesterday, I worked on the house for a mere 8 hours, then went home to drink too much and take a nap. When I woke at 10 p.m., I went back to the house to resume work. On the way, I saw that Target was open and thought I'd pop in for a drink and a few odds and ends. When I finished shopping, I realized I'd forgotten my wallet. I found a checkbook and a passport in my bag, but the cashier didn't know how to take a check with a passport. I left empty-handed, went back to get my wallet, and then returned to the house. I just want to get it in good enough shape that a realtor can list it and I can stop going back there. It is so depressing improving things for strangers. Whichever family moves in will never know I started the bathroom remodel with my beloved Constance, but finished it without her, for them. They won't know the memories created in the house or the hearts broken in it. It's probably better that way. They can make their own memories without the ghost of our lost future casting a looming shadow over them. Day 67. If I'm upset about something, I try to figure out why. In my analysis, I seek a root cause to blame so I can ignore the symptom, my irritation. When I have a negative reaction to someone saying my name, it is because I resent the attention, distraction, or intimacy. I don't know. Recently, I've had a new negative emotion to evaluate. A few different friends have aggressively told me what and what not to do. They put me in the position of defending my choices, citing collaborative sources, pleading for them to respect my boundaries, and ultimately causing me to wish I hadn't confided in them in the first place. I know their bulldogging comes from a genuine concern and love for me, but it makes me regret my openness with them. I wonder how many more times I have forcefully insisted on pushing my advice on my friends, probably far more than I'd like to admit. Life is difficult. It is easy to see what other people should do and not do, but so hard to see our own path clearly. Let me rephrase and speak for myself. It's seemingly impossible for me to see my own path clearly. Day 68. The week Constance passed, we painted large canvases to hang around the house. When I saw Constance pretending to paint the pictures with a dry Crayola brush, we decided we should update them. We donned old clothes, went to the backyard, and painted with abandon. The first time we painted the canvases was a little over a year prior. At that time, our Pollock-inspired painting technique received a scorching review by Constance's father. He is not an artist by trade, training, or temperament. This time, we painted directly on the old canvases with lines, splashes, and imprints. Constance kept saying, "Uh-oh, yellow paint," and painting over any yellow on the canvases with other colors. It was such a blast. She is a happy girl. She was a happy girl. Spending time with her was joyous. At the time, I thought we'd put another layer of paint on them in another year. After she passed, I signed them C+R, knowing the paintings would never be updated again. The day after Constance passed, my parents came to my house and noticed the canvases had been updated since their last visit. My mother pointed one out and said it was her favorite because it looks like Constance had painted the word love across it. We'd never know if that was her intention or not. She wasn't around to ask anymore. Before my mom left at the end of the week, I wrapped that specific canvas up and gave it to her. She cried, I cried, and we both wished Constance was there to help us paint one more time. Day 69. Several weeks ago, I was asked to confirm whether I would be attending the Chicago Friends School's annual fundraiser. They were celebrating the school's anniversary and wanted to thank the founding board members who would be in attendance. I said I would follow up if I was up to it. I've been trying to avoid making personal commitments. When the day came, I was stuck in a work meeting far too late to attend. I resigned myself to sending a note of regrets and a small donation later. When I volunteered my time on the Chicago Friends School's founding board, it was with the goal of someday sending my unborn children to attend there. Many volunteer activities are fun, but service on this founding board wasn't. It was a tedious, slow-moving chore. Now the school is an inspiring institution spreading peace in Chicago, and I'm happy to have been a small part of it. Constance never got to attend the Chicago Friends School. The timing, location, and her needs made it impossible. However, a month before Constance passed, I visited the school and had a long conversation with friends about the possibility of Constance doing an extracurricular activity there to provide her with additional social interaction. The suggestion was made that Constance could come and visit when they worked on their garden. One of the hardest things about having a child with special needs is seeing them excluded from birthday parties, play dates, and the community in general. As a result, I was always working to find ways for Constance to play with other children. I don't know if this spring Constance would have gardened at Chicago Friends School or not. There are a million unknowns about her short and long-term future. I don't know if the theoretical future matters now or not. I feel like no matter how hard you work to create a world in which your child can be happy and healthy, so much is just random, terrible, monstrous chance. If nothing you do ultimately influences the outcome, how do you stay motivated to do things? I just don't know. Day 70. Years ago, when I found out that some dentists get their teeth cleaned quarterly by other dentists, I decided that if I could ever afford to get my teeth cleaned quarterly, I would. When I acquired this knowledge, Constance was less than a year old and had a dentist with me. I took her everywhere for the first few years of her life, like a wildly overpriced, one-of-a-kind purse. Only instead of carrying money, she costs money, and she requires me to carry additional luggage. Since Constance's passing, I've started grinding my teeth. I have a significant overbite. Apparently, my overbite is so severe that my grinding has chipped and moved my teeth since my last visit pre-Constance's passing. As a result, I am now the proud owner of a retainer. I will be wearing retainers around the clock for a minimum of 6 months, and then only at night. Theoretically, the transparent retainers are supposed to be a better option than eventually me biting off all of my teeth and getting implants. However, it's too early to tell. I feel like a giant baby. I'm not supposed to eat or drink anything besides cool water when they're in. Yes, plain water. The thought of having to brush and floss my teeth after every cup of coffee might just be the thing that finally cures me of my 4 cups a day habit. Future Rachelle here. I can assure you, it did not cure me. In February, when I took Constance in for her checkup, her dentist assured me that she did not inherit my overbite. She did suggest that I consult with a specialist to discuss what she might recommend for Constance in the future if her crowding didn't go away after she lost her baby teeth. I thought the idea was completely absurd. I told the dentist I wasn't going to pay $500, miss a day of work, take Constance out of school again just for a specialist to speculate on what possible treatment for a future possible problem that Constance was years away of possibly having. I'm sure the dentist noted my attitude, if not my retort, in her file. Unfortunately, Constance did have two cavities that needed to be filled. Most kids these days get their teeth sealed so they don't get cavities. But when Constance's father took her to the last appointment, he declined because he thought she was unlikely to keep her teeth dry while the sealant set. He was probably right. I hated being the bad cop that took her to all the painful things like vaccination. Being there when she got her teeth filled was a bummer. I tried to cheer up with french fries and a cookie after, but she couldn't be pacified. She chose a nap on the hour's drive home and then awoke just as pissed at me as she was when she fell asleep. The key complaint was that when we went to the clinic, I promised her it was a no ouchie trip. And then when they found out she had fillings and a cancellation the same day, they did the fillings that afternoon. I didn't think there was ever a time when Constance would have wanted to get the fillings done. Who would? So we might as well get them done while we were there. Still, being the parent who followed through on commitments was very important to me. I felt terrible that I'd broke the no ouchie trip promise to her. We still joked about how Constance called her grandmother a sneaky sneak for telling her she was taking her to the pool, but not actually doing so successfully because when they arrived, it had closed due to rain. I don't want to be a sneaky snake. I just want to be a good mom. Day 71. A handful of years ago, I completed a yoga teacher training certification. I wanted to teach special needs yoga classes to individuals with sensory processing and regulation challenges, such as those with autism spectrum disorders. My interest in taking Constance everywhere with me led me to discover that the only way I was to find a yoga class that was appropriate for both of us was if I created it. When Constance and I would do yoga at home, she had this adorable habit of figuring out how to perform poses by climbing on my back as I did them, and then doing them next to me. Some poses she found so silly that she would lay down on the floor and just laugh. Let's face it, a tripod headstand against a wall is a bit ridiculous looking. Regrettably, I was unable to find any other parents with kids with special needs interested in taking such a class. However, the training did have two positive outcomes. First, I was able to volunteer my time helping with Misericordia's yoga classes. These were for the adults living there with physical and developmental challenges. Each adult had their own yoga instructor there to help them. Second, I made friends with some local women. Two of these women opened a yoga studio of their own a couple of weeks after Constance passed. In fact, the day Constance passed, Jen came to my house to pick up an office chair I left on my front porch for her. They were kind enough to take office supplies and a water fountain I no longer needed as well. It helped me clean out my basement. Regrettably, I wasn't able to come to the opening party for the studio because I wasn't in a place in my grief where I could. At the moment, I felt up to it. I signed up for gentle yoga class and came in. My balance, posture, flexibility, and strength were all gone. It was incredible to see how much my body had changed over just a couple of months. I felt like my muscles and bones had all shrunk and coiled in on themselves, petrified by fire. My goal was simply not to cry till I got to my car. That I achieved. At my second gentle yoga class, a woman introduced herself to me by saying, "I know who you are. You're the mom with the dead daughter. You must feel terrible. I can't imagine anything worse." I replied, correct on all points. I am that woman, and it is terrible. If I'd ever hoped for infamy, it certainly wouldn't have been for that kind. I'm not offended by well-intentioned remarks, but it just meant that we have friends in common and that our friend had told her about my loss. Not surprising in a big small town like Chicago. It is hard to be motivated to do anything for myself. Is it okay to allow myself to feel good? I don't know. If my only motivation is my short-term personal pleasure, then I feel I'm destined to make all the mistakes of my youth over again. It's a chilling thought. Day 72. Day 72. Time is taffy. It stretches on, and yet there's too little of it. I'm sorry, but I'm not up to sharing today. Thank you for checking in with me anyways.
Copyright Want My Baby Back LLC. All rights reserved. The author does not authorize, scan, use, buy, or upload to artificial intelligence of any kind. Any depiction or representation of this or Constance's story will be met with all available legal remedies. In the immortal words of Snoop, don't start no, won't be no.